Carlos Reutemann, racing driver, politician, enigma. 1 minute he's fighting for position on the most perilous Grand Prix circuits in the world, and the next he's treading the treacherous waters of politics. How did this guy go from really burning some serious rubber to running a country? Let's hit it in gear and find out. Meet Carlos Alberto Lola Reutemann. This gentleman, born in 1942 in Argentina, was a true mix. Swiss-German granddad, Argentine father, and an Italian mother. You would have thought that growing up on a farm would make him about tractors and crops, right? Wrong. All the while, this man had a secret need for speed. Fast forward to 1965. He is 23 years old. Then he's up and about trading those tractors for a small Fiat. Now, if you will, this is what is called career change. Now, Reutemann wasn't some flash in the pan. From 1972 to 1982, he was the man. 12 wins, 6 pole positions. Dude was a beast. He came very near to becoming world champion in 1981, driving for Williams. Just by 1 point. Can you believe that heart-stopping agony? And get this, he finished third in the championship 3 times with different teams. That is like hitting a triple in baseball during 3 different seasons. Unbelievable. He's the last Argentine to win a Grand Prix. Last. That is a heavy title, if you ask me. Well, he had his share of fender benders. Now, what kind of fender benders are we talking? The off-the-track ones, of course. Before we get into the juicier details, smash that like button and subscribe. And now, back to the video. We've all seen those epic rivalries on the track, right? Friends turned foes, teammates becoming bitter enemies. You'd think you were watching a real-life soap opera. Take Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, for example. Once thick as thieves, they ended up in a full-blown championship brawl. Can you imagine that? Sharing a garage but wanting to rip each other's heads off. Who could forget the Vettel-Weber days? Their Red Bull days were more strained than a Formula One tyre. Of course, there were Senna and Prost. Their feud at McLaren was the stuff of legend. That is, talk about a toxic workplace. But nothing surpasses the beef between Carlos Reutemann and Alan Jones. 1980. Reutemann is back in the big time with Williams, driving a rocket ship of a car. Everyone is rubbing their hands together in anticipation. So the season starts bang in his own country, Argentina. You can imagine the pressure of racing among your own people. And this happens. His car blows up and the poor guy just loses it. He sits there, helmet off, crying his eyes out for the whole world to see. Heartbreaking, man. Well, don't write off this guy just yet. He picks himself up, dusts himself off, and wins Monaco. Now there's a turnaround. He keeps on, getting 8 podium finishes. Not bad, eh? Meanwhile, his teammate Alan Jones is creaming them. Together, they turned Williams into an unstoppable force, winning the Constructors' Championship with a record amount of points. But things started to crumble between them in the next season. Remember 1981? Yeah, that season when things went hot and heavy between Williams' teammates Alan Jones and Carlos Reutemann? Jones, of course, had just been crowned champion a year prior, leading Williams to their first title. As for Reutemann, well, the bridesmaid forever finishing third, people referred to him as Argentina's golden boy, next only to the legendary Juan Manuel Fangio. Now here is where things get interesting. According to reports, there was this secret contract Reutemann signed up before the season. Basically, it was a contract making Jones the golden boy, no matter what. Imagine the pot brewing inside Reutemann. It basically said that if they were way ahead of the pack, with Jones hot on Reutemann's tail, and the gap between them was less than 4 seconds, guess who had to back off and let Jones win? That's right, Reutemann. So the question is, was that a square deal? Was Reutemann simply a pawn in Williams' championship game, or is there more to this story? So Jones was essentially saying, hey, Carlos signed on the dotted line. If he didn't like the deal, tough luck. It was as if he were laying down the gauntlet. "I made a deal, I stick by it," Jones said. "Carlos, not so much." Then bam! In Brazil, in the rain, Jones and Reutemann were miles ahead of pack. The pit crew held up a sign, "Jones Reut." Can you imagine? It was like a cold slap in the face for Reutemann, wasn't it? The contract, staring him right in the face. Reutemann refused to give an inch. Can you credit this? I mean, here he is, with Jones snapping at his heels. The pressure must have been tremendous. A Brazilian win would have been a dream start towards the defence of his title. But did Reutemann budge? No. Jones was getting less and less patient. With the laps running out, it was obvious he wasn't going to play ball, he said. I thought to myself, well, this guy's got some nerve. Reutemann didn't bat an eyelid. He had Jones in his wake, but kept the pedal to the metal. Either the man had ice water in his veins, or was obtuse. Either way, he maintained that pace. An infuriated Jones said, I could have taken him, no problem. But that stupid agreement? Talk about a broken confidence. Jones was done with Reutemann. No more Mr. Nice Guy, he basically said. It's every man for himself from now on. And the next race? Argentina. Reutemann's home turf. Can you imagine the pressure on Jones? He needed bodyguards, for crying out loud. Talk about a hostile environment. Both of them qualified side by side. That must be embarrassing. Jones? He was just thinking, good luck with that. Argentina? Surprisingly, it was a quiet race. Reutemann finished second, Jones fourth. Maybe the fear of what could happen kept them in check. But the calm before the storm, as they say. Imola? There the fireworks started. Jones said Reutemann didn't like him pushing, so they had a little coming together. A drive into, according to some reports, ouch. After that, it went downhill for Jones. 6 races, barely a point to show for it. The champ, reduced to also ran. No wonder he was ready to call it quits. He'd had enough of the drama, the pressure, and especially Reutemann. In 1982, he returned to Williams and did well at the South African Grand Prix, finishing second. Quite a feat considering that he was in a Cosworth-powered car against the turbocharged power plants. Next thing you know, out of the left field comes the Falklands War, and right away there is this huge political tension between Argentina and the UK. Reutemann is Argentine, and finds himself right in the middle of all this mess. Then he had the nerve to quit after the Brazilian Grand Prix. Now, that was a gutsy move. Some say he is eyeing some political career, while others, like Patrick Head, believe he lost his passion for racing. Well, who is right? Only time will tell. And now, read on. Fast forward to 1984. Ligier offers him a test drive. How about a comeback? No way. It never was. Just a one-off test, and that was it. So what was ticking in his mind? Was he tempted by coming back to the tracks? Or had he really done with racing? We'll never know for sure. So, hanging up his helmet, Reutemann traded in the racetrack for the political stage. Can you believe it? The guy goes from Formula One to governor of Santa Fe. Talk about a career change. Actually, he won twice. That's pretty cool. But politics is a whole different animal, you know? He was in some tough spots, like when the economy crashed massively in 2001. He struggled to keep his head above water. It wasn't easy. Even wilder, he was asked to be president a few times and declined. Could you walk away from the highest position? That is ballsy. He ended up going to the Senate, and boy, things got pretty wild too. At one point, he even started his own political party. That is a dude who did not have a problem breaking off and doing his own thing. His story sadly ended way too soon. The struggle was hard until the very end. Reutemann's health took a critical turn for the worse a few days before his death. Intensive care bleeding was a hard blow. The legendary driver, who had tamed all circuits and struggling cars on the racetrack, met the toughest opponent in his life. He'd been in and out of the hospital since May, battling anemia, dehydration, kidney problems. It was a long and tough slog, made even worse by the underlying liver cancer he'd been dealing with since 2017. But his body was just too weary. After a long, gallant battle, he died on July 7th, 2021. He was 79.
And so he's gone, Carlos. Fabulous racing driver, very good friend. First met him in 72, so I've known him for 50 years. We became very good friends early on. I was just a young punk from Australia, and he was an Argentine megastar, really, wasn't he? He was just fabulous. When I met him, of course, he was just starting at Brabham, and Gordon Murray was about to produce the incredible BT42, which evolved into the race-winning BT44B. I remember it was quite fitting, really. I was walking down King's Road one Saturday early in '74 when the radio news came on and announced that Carlos had won the South African Grand Prix. I remember thinking...
Reutemann was much more than a racing driver. He was the epitome of Argentine pride, carrying the torch of the legendary Fangio and Gonzalez. His decade-long F1 career had been all colours of skill and fight. 12 wins, 45 podiums, 6 pole positions. The numbers are quite eloquent. His conquests at the Nürburgring and Monaco are forever etched in racing history. It is an enormous loss for Argentina. Being a champion both on and off the track, his legacy will live forever. From farm boy to Formula One champion and then governor and senator, Carlos Reutemann had quite a ride. A man who could tame a racing car and the world of politics is not bad for a kid from Argentina, right? Too bad he didn't win that last race, but boy, did he ever live it in the fast lane. That's it for this one. If you're a fan of F1 icons, make sure to check out our other videos too.